That's what we're exploring together today. What kind of teacher do you want to be? So yesterday I was asking you, who do you want to teach? And that started us off at looking at what are our strengths, what do we love to do, what's the feedback that we get from people, what questions do people ask of us, what do people think of us, okay, feedback that we get. And what do we think of ourselves? And then I asked you to think about then who do you want to serve through your passion? So yesterday's project or homework was to create a client avatar of your ideal client. And know that that might evolve as you fine tune your understanding of your journey. Mine certainly has, and students that have graduated with me, it's all evolved with time. Evolution is a good thing, and that's what I've written down here. Evolution suggests that we're growing. We're moving forward, and that ultimately we're becoming a more confident, self-assured teacher. So we start to fine tune what it is that sets us alive in terms of excitement or enthusiasm or passion, or just something we're really good at. Okay, so we grow and we evolve. So know that client avatar, the niche, will grow and evolve. But I asked you to take action yesterday, not to procrastinate, not to think about it, but to write down and commit to your first attempt at thinking about who your ideal client is. So hopefully you've done that first part of the puzzle. Today, then, I want you to reflect on your qualities a little bit further, and we're going to start with your core values, and we'll break that down a little bit more in a few slides from now. So your values, what do you stand for as a person? What are your values in life? What are the ethics or the morals that you live by in your life? And I'm not talking about just on the yoga mat in terms of your role as teacher, but you as a person. Because remember, to be authentic, what we or how we show up as in our teacher role on the yoga mat with our students is how effectively we should be really living our life. We don't want to be putting on one hat for being a human being in our life and then another hat when we step into the role of yoga teacher. So we want to be kind of living the same values, and that should be present and clear for us and for the people that we're teaching. And that's how we build strong relationships, because we navigate towards our people, they navigate towards us. And if we're not the same in real life as we are on stage, let's think of it like that, we're going to perhaps present as not being authentic. Okay, so we want to be thinking about our values on and off the yoga mat, in real life and on the yoga mat. So what do we stand for? This bright colored slide then, what kind of teacher do you want to be? Okay, so I want to talk about brainstorming. What are the qualities of a good teacher, and what kind of teacher do you want to be? And you can jot down these questions on this slide if you want to, because this is going to be part of your homework this evening. These are prompts for you to journal. So what kind of teacher do you want to be? Do you want to teach the yoga shapes, or do you want to teach the energy behind them? Okay, so think about that. Do you want to teach the yoga shapes? Okay, so do you want to bring people through a series of shapes, warrior 2, warrior 1, warrior 3, crescent, low crescent, sun A, sun B? Do you want to teach the shapes? Okay, perhaps you want to be motivated by teaching the advanced shapes. You want to build your community to work towards handstand. Or whether maybe you view downward facing dog as an advanced pose, depending on your audience, right? Do you want to teach the shapes, or do you want to teach the energy behind them? And the energy behind them might be the chakras. Okay, it might be an energetic, a subtle energy, the chakras. You might want to talk about Chinese medicine, or the 5 elements. Okay, you might want to think about this. There are 4 or 5, 6 different categories of asana. So when we think about forward folds, the energy behind forward folds is comforting, nourishing, nurturing, grounding. Okay, it's that cuddle, isn't it? At the end of class. And when we think about arm balances, they're confidence building, they're empowering. Okay, they're fear reducing, and they're empowering. So are you going to be the teacher that talks about the shapes, or are you going to be the teacher that talks about the shapes and the energy behind them? Okay, and it doesn't have to be either or. These are just put in this this written format for you to have a bit of a food for thought session. Okay, now the next one is, do you teach how to master a pose or how to help the nervous system? So I came across a teacher on Instagram recently who actually does both very, very well, but her main focus is nervous system. Okay, and if anyone's interested, I'll share the name with you. And she teaches functional yoga. So much of her practice, or her teaching as well, is about teaching teachers primarily how to awaken certain parts of the hips. So a lot of work on psoas awakening, for example, a lot of work on spinal mobility, and a lot of stuff that if you didn't look beneath the surface is just about the shapes, okay, and how to strengthen the muscles in the shapes, certain shapes and transitions and movements. But fundamentally, her messaging behind all of that is by having a healthy nervous system, healthy immune system, okay, balance between parasympathetic and sympathetic and other aspects of our nervous system, we're going to be able to come into our shapes from a different perspective. Yeah, we store tension in the muscles and stress in the muscles. If we approach the shapes from a stress part of our nervous system, we're fighting against resistance. If we approach our shapes from a calm, grounded, healthy parasympathetic nervous system state, the muscles are relaxed because the brain thinks we're in a safe space, and we get more space, more ability with the practice. Okay, so that might be a bit beyond the spectrum of what we're talking about, but it's an example of how you can be the person that masters the poses. So you're fantastic at teaching inversions. Or you're the person that's talking about the fact that an inversion helps to calm your mindset, okay? Or it's really good for lymphatic system health, which is then good for immune system health, which is then good for nervous system health, and so on and so forth. And maybe you blend those two together, okay? Do you teach the shapes for the sake of a fun flow? So are you a creative, funky teacher? You put together really creative, playful, fun, good time flows, okay, which is really something that I really enjoy as a participant in a class. Or do you share the learnings? Okay, so notice the sensation. Know that when you take the foot back like this and you bend the knee a little bit, you're creating more stability around the hip joint, for example. That might be one example. Lots of different ways that we can think about that. So what's your focus? Do you want to be the fun, floaty, kind of creative, playful teacher, or do you want to share deeper learnings, or will you combine the two? Okay. Do you teach anatomy? Is your focus when people are in a shape on anatomy, the anatomy of the pose, or is it on the philosophy? So when your students are in Warrior 2, are you talking about the fact that the glute maximus is working to extend and externally rotate the back leg, and psoas is working to draw the front leg into that bend, and torso and all the muscles around the core are working to keep us upright, and the fact that the rhomboids and trapezius in between the shoulder blades are working to keep the arms in this good position, as are deltoids, okay? Or are you talking about the power, the strength, the determination, the fierceness, the focus that comes with being a warrior within the philosophical side of things? Okay, when you do Hanumanasana, are you talking about the experience of leaping across the water to save a friend, a family commitment, and empowering that relationship? Or are you talking about the muscles that need to be stretched to get into the shape? Okay, you can do both, of course, but do you have a tendency to lean in one direction or the other? Do you teach fast yoga or slow? Okay, so some of my graduates on the 200-hour program, they'll do a vinyasa training with me, but we know by the end of the practice that they're more geared towards slow vinyasa. And then I absolutely know that some will be teaching power vinyasa. Okay, so what kind of teacher do you want to be? Do you play music or do you prefer silence? If you play music, do you play funky, upbeat music, R&B, hip hop, whatever it might be, rock and roll? Or do you prefer the silence? Okay, so think about that, or versus the silence, the musical, the instrumental version of the music. Okay, what's going to set you apart from the crowd? So now there are, I forget the statistic, I think that there, in something like 2006, Yoga Alliance used to certify maybe 20 teachers a day, a really manageable number a day. And now they're teaching hundreds, if they're certifying hundreds, if not thousands of yoga teachers each day, just 6 years ago, okay, between 2006 and 2016. I'm not sure what it is now, but imagine all the people that have done their online teacher trainings in the last year. Okay, so there's a lot of teachers in the world. What is it that's going to set you apart from the crowd? This is what this whole session is about, okay? It's your mindset, it's your skill set, it's who you want to teach, how you want to teach, how you present yourself to the world, and then actually how you teach. How do you develop your skills, okay? The things that we're looking at each day. So we'll think about that. What do you want to set you apart from the crowd? What does yoga mean to you? So come back to basics. Why did you go to your first yoga class? And what did you receive from the class? What is it about the class that made you go back again? Okay. And then as you went through your teacher training, what is it about yoga that hooked you? What is it that made you realize you wanted to take the step from being a practitioner into sharing this passion that you have with the world? Okay. What does yoga mean to you? Okay. So for me, I came to yoga from this place of stress, fundamentally. Completely repeating injuries in my competitive running side of life. And then in my corporate world, I wasn't happy and I was overdoing things. Yeah, I was burnt out, tired, stressed, run down. So I came to yoga to calm down all of my yang activities in running and all of my yang existence within the corporate world. So yoga came to be something that was about balance for me. Okay, and it still is that idea of coming back to myself. But now I also love to share about the anatomy, okay, because that's a huge part of who I am. Now then think about what your favorite teacher teaches. Okay, doesn't have to be your teacher trainer. Think of your favorite teacher, or even think of your favorite class. If you can reflect back on your favorite teacher, what values do they have? How do they teach a class? What are the things that they teach that make you feel like, oh God, I love that teacher. You know, I love the way they present. I love the way they share. What is it about them that you like? And it doesn't mean you have to like everything, okay? But what are the bits of those teachings that your teacher shares that you love? It might be the funky music. It might be the stories they share through the class. It might just be this ambience that they create. It might be the safe space in which they create. It might be that they talk about anatomy. It might be they talk about philosophy, all of the things that we just listed above, okay? And then similarly, if you can't think back to your favorite teacher, think about the favorite class, that class that you left that was like, wow. It might even be your own class, okay? What class made you, when you finished it, and the feedback that you received from people made you think, wow, that was awesome. I want to do more of that, okay? I have a teacher, he's not in Ubud anymore, but he used to be, and a wonderful, wonderful man. And his classes were incredibly playful, incredibly curious in the nature, incredibly advanced, but it gave you options within them. You would be laughing one minute, crying the next minute, struggling, and then laughing off the struggle. And every single time he started the class with a personal story about something that had happened to him in his day or the previous days before that class. And he put it into a context that allowed you to take a theme from it if you wanted to. It was never forced on us. And it carried through the whole class. And it was your food for thought project all the way through. And yet at the same time, he talked about anatomy. He talked about confidence, emotions, health. He put all of the pieces together for me. And I remember thinking, I want to teach like that. Okay. And I can't teach all of the things that he teaches, but I've taken the bits that I can. And one of my graduates who came with me from a 200-hour training, at the end of his class, also, she said to me, I want to be him. I want to teach like him. Okay. So I have this very vivid memory of this teacher in my mind. So think about that. Yeah, really brainstorm on that, journal on it, think about it. What was your favorite teacher? What was the favorite class that you either received the class or you gave the class? And write down what it was that was exciting about it. Okay, it's going to give you some information. All right, so here's a load of love hearts on a page, and I've got 2 pages, and I could have probably done 10 pages. But every single training that I run, in person or online, I ask my students, what are the qualities that you can think of about your favorite teacher? So what we were just talking about before, okay? And these are the highlights of what people tell me. And I've drawn from all of the courses I've run in the last 2 years. So I'm going to start in the top left. And the first one is checking in. Okay, so a teacher that checks in. And what we mean by that is they go up to all of the students before the class. They say hi, they make eye contact. They ask them if they've got injuries, any limitations, anything that they need to know about that's going to help them to connect with the student through the class. Okay, so there's that connection. I've been to a class where the teacher doesn't have time to go around all of the 60 or 70 people in the room, but she goes around and she just makes eye contact with each person and namaste hands and says, thank you for being here. Okay, so she acknowledges every single person in the classroom, but she doesn't have time to interact beyond that. Be present. Okay, so second one is be present. Well, being present is being able to be in the room. Yeah, whatever's going on in your life is going on in your life, and that sits on the door. As soon as you come into the classroom, you're present. Okay, you're able to connect with your students. You're able to create this presence that makes people feel like you really see them, you really feel them. Okay, and a teacher's role for me is looking and seeing what's in front of you. That's where you get most of your information from, versus your sequences or your communication plan that you have. Most of it comes from being present and seeing what's in front of you. Okay, so this ability to really connect and be present. And then playfulness and curiosity. So that can be playfulness in communication, playfulness in sequencing, somebody that encourages the students to be curious in their ability. So not thinking, oh God, I can't do that shape, so I'm just going to sit here and watch, and the teacher letting that happen. The teacher gets in with the student and helps them to get curious with themselves. They give variety and they make it lighthearted so it's not taken too seriously. Okay, so if you fall down, no problem. You stand up, you get back up again, okay, without being singled out.